Today on Mind Eclipse, we're diving deep into the path of spiritual maturity and the 10 things your soul can no longer tolerate once it awakens. There comes a time in life when the soul quietly refuses to bend any longer. It's not rebellion, it's not arrogance, it's something far deeper. An invisible shield begins to form around you, a strength that is not aggressive, but unyielding. Carl Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming whole, of aligning with the authentic self. And in that journey, something curious happens. You don't become endlessly tolerant, as some spiritual teachings might suggest. Instead, you become discerning. You begin to separate what is nourishing from what is toxic, what is real from what is false. This is not about closing your heart. It is about protecting it. It is about realizing that compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. As Jung observed, spiritual maturity is not about pleasing everyone. It is about becoming true. Here are 10 things that spiritually mature souls can no longer tolerate. 1. Subtle, energetic intrusion. Long before words are spoken, you feel it. The shift in energy, the heaviness in the air, the intention hiding behind the smile. Your nervous system picks it up like a finely tuned instrument. Once, you might have ignored it. You might have told yourself you were imagining things. But as you mature, your spirit refuses to absorb what does not belong to you. You begin to notice when someone is unloading their unprocessed emotions onto you. You see the invisible hooks in their words. And suddenly you are no longer available, not because you are unkind, but because you understand. Carrying someone else's shadow is not love. It is betrayal of the self. 2. Manipulative theater. Some people turn relationships into stages. Their tears are performances. Their silence is a weapon. Their crises are carefully timed to place themselves at the center of attention. When you are young in spirit, you may fall for it. You may become the rescuer, the fixer, the one who sacrifices everything to soothe their chaos. But a spiritually mature soul sees through the script. You realize that manipulation is not connection, that orchestrated drama is not intimacy. And the moment you see it, the spell is broken. You step off the stage and the entire play collapses without your role to sustain it. 3. Worship of the shallow. The modern world kneels before numbers, likes, followers, titles, possessions. Entire lives are built on optics. But when your soul matures, these things lose their shine. You no longer confuse popularity with value. You no longer trade your essence for validation. Status symbols feel hollow. What matters now is not how loudly the world applauds, but how deeply your spirit resonates with truth. True wealth becomes silence, peace, and authenticity. 4. Environments of devaluation. There are spaces, workplaces, relationships, even families that thrive on minimizing you. Environments where you are asked to shrink, to apologize for existing, to prove your worth over and over again. Once you may have endured this in silence, but a spiritually mature soul refuses. Not with anger, but with quiet withdrawal. You cannot flourish where your essence is constantly questioned. You cannot bloom in soil that demands your roots cut themselves short. And so you leave, not to punish others, but to honor yourself. 5. Boundary erosion. For much of life, boundaries feel negotiable. You explain them, justify them, debate them. But there comes a time when boundaries stop being arguments. They become laws of nature. You no longer apologize for needing rest. You don't explain why you protect your time. You don't justify why you say no. Boundaries are not walls. They are expressions of truth. And truth requires no defense. 6. Noise and mediocrity gossip. Complaints. Endless distraction. The constant hum of mediocrity. What once entertained now feels unbearable. This isn't elitism, it is resonance. When your consciousness expands, shallow talk feels like spiritual starvation. You crave silence, you crave depth, you crave conversations that stir the soul, not just pass the time. And so, you begin to protect your attention like sacred fire, fueling it only with what brings meaning. 7. Disrespect for the inner child. Inside every soul lives a child, curious, playful, radiant. For years you may have silenced this child to survive, to fit in, to appear serious enough for the world. But maturity brings a strange reversal. You begin to guard that child fiercely. Your joy, your playfulness, your wonder becomes sacred. Any person or place that mocks this innocence, that shames your laughter or ridicules your lightheartedness, begins to feel toxic. You no longer sacrifice joy for acceptance. 8. Shadow projection. Everyone carries a shadow, the hidden parts of themselves they refuse to see. But often people cast this shadow onto others. They blame, scapegoat, and accuse, making you the carrier of what they cannot own. When you faced your own darkness, you begin to recognize this game. You no longer accept blame that isn't yours. You no longer take on shame that doesn't belong to you. Projection stops working on you, not because you resist it, but because you see it for what it is. And once you see, you cannot be deceived again. 9. Emotional fast food. Cheap dopamine, quick highs, shallow intimacy, spiritual shortcuts. The endless consumption of fast food for the soul. When you are young, these things may seem enough, but maturity craves depth. Junk stimulation leaves you empty. You want real nourishment, authentic connection, meaningful practice, embodied presence. The fast food of the spirit no longer satisfies. You hunger for meals that feed both soul and body. 10. Trading authenticity for approval. Perhaps the deepest shift of all. You stop sacrificing your truth just to be accepted. For years, you may have shapeshifted, wearing masks to fit in, bending to be liked, betraying yourself to belong. But there comes a day when your soul simply refuses. You would rather be alone in authenticity than surrounded in falsehood. You would rather walk in silence than speak words that betray your spirit. Approval loses its grip, and authenticity becomes your only compass. The paradox of maturity. Here lies the paradox. As you mature, you become softer in love, yet firmer in truth. More compassionate, yet less available. More open-hearted, yet less tolerant of what isn't real. This is not coldness. This is clarity. This is individuation, the process Jung spoke of, the becoming of an undivided self. If you feel this shift, if you find yourself rejecting what you once tolerated, know this: you are not hardening. You are becoming true. This is the quiet revolution of the soul. If this reflection spoke to you, make sure to subscribe to Mind Eclipse, where every week we explore philosophy, psychology, and the stillness within. Until next time, stay true, stay awake,